Now let us see how we can extract all the values from this drop-down list. As in, we are assuming that we don't have any method available to get this thing done. So if you look at these options inside this option, like inside this drop-down list over here in the HTML part, then you can see the drop down list is actually a select tag, and all the options are basically inside option tag, right? So we need to find out anything which is common in all these options. I mean, option tag, as in if I talk about this particular option st, this is inside an option tag, and one tag is equal to one single element on the page, right? This we have already discussed. One single tag is equal to one single element. So when you find one single element, you generally write it like driver dot find element. Now when I write find element, I get two things. One is find element and one is find elements, right? So what find elements does, it finds all elements within the current page using the given mechanism. As in, find elements, if I say by dot, I can use any of the locator and I can find that element which has got any common locator in it. Common locator, as in if you look at these options, these values, do you see anything common? The language is not common, value is not common, but option is common. Option is common in all these elements. And what is option? Option is basically a tag name. And we know that tag name is also a locator, right? So what we can do, we can simply say by dot tag name option over here. And this will gonna do the same stuff that this is doing, get option. It is getting all the options, and same way by dot tag name option is actually getting all the option tags from here, right? Now this is, I mean, it is actually getting all the option tag, not just the text value. It is getting everything from it. Even this value attribute, even this language attribute, even this text. Later on, you can decide whether you want to print value, you want to print language, or you want to print the text out of it, right? So how are you going to do that? Let's say it has returned us all the option tags. So I cannot directly print it. I first need to store it because these are more than one tags. So I'll be storing it inside, let's say string, and I can say value is equal to this. But these are more than one values, right? So it should not be string. I can say it string array because more than one values are stored inside in an array. But in case of WebDriver, there is no concept of array, right? Everything is dynamically handled. So array is not there. We need to change it to list, right? So it could be list of a string type imported through Java util. But again, it is not being stored in a list. Why it is, I mean, it is not being stored in a list of a string type. Why? Because when I talk about storing a single element, we store it in web element. Then when we are storing multiple elements, how can we store it in a string? It has to be list of a web element type. And that is what the return type of this method is. If you mouse over onto this, you'll find the return type of this method is list of a web element type. And this is the same return type to this get option, that is list of a web element. So we have exactly designed the same stuff, but by using our own logic. Now we extracted all the values. Now I want to print the text of all the values. Like I can print text as well, I can print this language attribute, I can print this value attribute as well. So how are we going to print it? Before we print it, I want to find what is the total count of values inside this drop down list. So this drop down values, I've stored it inside a list. If I want to find the total count of values, I can directly print the size of list. How? By saying values dot size. This will return me the size of the list, which is equal to the total number of values inside the drop down list, right? So what we can do, if I try to print this values dot size, I'll just mention total values are values dot size, and if I run this, so it printed total values are 61. So it means there are total 61 values inside this drop-down list. If in case you want to check it, simply say tag name is option, right? So try to find the option tag. Option. See, 61 option tags are there, right? So this was the correct count, 61 values. It means the last value will be at which index? So see, when I'm talking about a list, the first value is always at the 0th index. And the last value is n minus 1. Now what is this n minus 1? N is basically size minus 1. So the index of last value will be 61 minus 1, which is equal to 60. So the first value will be at the 0th index of a list, and the last value will be at the 60th index of this list. So in case if you want to print like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, eighth value, so it will be at the 7th index. So how to print the 8th value which is at the 7th index? In case of array, we do something like this, values 7, but this is list, not array. So we're gonna do values dot get 7. Now what get 7 will gonna return you? Get 7 will gonna return you the 8th value which is at the 7th index of this list. And what is that value? That value is basically a single web element, right? So get 7 will not just return you this text, not just return you this language, it will return you the complete web element, the entire web element, because we are storing web element over here. If I store string over here, then it will return string value. But if you store web element over here, then mouse over onto get, you will see that it returns you web element. So one single web element. And what you want to do with web element? You want to get the text out of it. So say dot, you get all the methods from the web element interface, and one of the method is get text. So if you print this thing now, this will get you the text of the 7th element, the 8th element at the 7th index of this list. So let's run this and let's see how it works. And if I go back to the console, you will see that the value dense is printed, right? So now we know that the first value is at the 0th index, 8th value is at the 7th index, last value is size minus 1, that is 60th index. And now I want to print all the values. So it should be simple now. I can simply write a for loop which should start from 0. This is a simple for loop, right? We can do it in for each as well, extended for loop, that we're going to see in the next example. So right now for int I equal to this, I equal to 0, I less than values dot size. So less than because I need to run 1 less than the size, and then we'll be incrementing it by 1. And over here I'll say values dot get index I dot get text. If in case we don't want to get the text, we want to get this attribute language, I can do this thing as well. I can get the attribute value as well. So how to get the attribute language? Say dot get attribute language. So whatever that you need from the web element, you can achieve that thing using this approach. So if I run this thing now, you will see over here, it has printed the entire languages. See, starting from AR, if you look over here, starting one is AR. And the last value, the last language is KO. So the last language over here is KO. So it has printed the entire languages from the language attribute. Right? So this is what the approach is. But still, there is a catch in this approach. Now, what that catch is? The catch is, let's say, on this page, I have only one drop-down list, right? So this drop-down list is a select tag and all the values are inside option tag. What if I have 10 more drop-down lists? Will that not be a select tag? Will their values not be inside option tag? They're also going to have the same select tag and option tags for values. So when you say driver.find elements by.tag name option, it will not just going to find from this drop-down list, rather it will going to find from all the drop-down list. Right now it worked because there is only one drop-down list, right? And we have option tags in that drop-down list only. But what if we have more than one drop-down list? So how are we going to solve that thing? So along with that, we'll come back to this question later on. But before that, there's an assignment for you. Just try to find out total count of links on this page. Right? Just find out how many links are there on this page. Find the count and print the text of all the links along with the URL. Right? So in the next lecture, we're going to do this assignment. We're going to see how we're going to get all the links, how we're going to manipulate all the links on the page. All right? Thank you.